It all started as a peaceful, spiritual weekend. People traveled from different parts of the country, dressed in their Sabbath best, expecting what they had always known: calm worship, powerful sermons, and respectful praise. The Seventh-day Adventist camp meeting was known for its quiet dignity, modesty, and deep reverence. But this time, things were different. You won't believe how quickly everything shifted. The moment the names Ricky Dillard and Clark Sheard were announced as headliners, the atmosphere around the event began to stir. Some called it a blessing, others a spiritual risk, but no one expected what was coming next. Let me tell you, before a single choir robe was ironed or a microphone was plugged in, controversy had already started bubbling under the surface. Emails were leaked, leaders were whispering. There were rumors of private Zoom calls where elders openly questioned the decision to invite two gospel artists known for high-energy performances and emotional worship. According to one insider, a committee member even threatened to resign. The fear wasn't just about the music, it was about what spirit might come with it. Some were afraid this could open a door to emotional chaos that would go against everything the SDA church believed in. Despite the resistance, the event organizers moved forward. They stood firm, saying their intention was to bridge the gap between generations. One even said, "This is about unity, not disruption." But here is the shocking part. Many believe there were deeper motives. With youth attendance dropping year by year, bringing in big names like Ricky and Karen may have been a desperate attempt to pull in numbers. Flyers began circulating with bold statements like, "This ain't your grandma's camp meeting anymore." The line caused a wave of excitement and concern. Social media lit up. Some people were hopeful, others were on high alert, but what no one knew was just how intense things were about to get. As the day arrived, the worship tent filled quickly. People found their seats, some humming hymns, others scrolling their phones. There was a mix of excitement and hesitation in the air. And this is where it gets interesting. Ricky Dillard entered the tent like a gust of wind, dressed in a shimmering green robe, his choir behind him, colorful and confident. The music began, not with slow hymns, but with a powerful, thunderous praise song. His choir erupted with more abundantly, a song filled with energy, movement, and passion. Some stood and praised along, some sat frozen. One elder reportedly closed his Bible and didn't open it again. The craziest part? Right in the middle of a soul-stirring solo, one of the lead mics went dead. The singer's voice faded into confusion. Was it a tech issue or something done on purpose? Whispers traveled fast across the tent. People looked around. Backstage, an assistant worship coordinator was seen rushing toward the elders. No one knew what was said, but tension started building. Then Ricky, with fire in his voice, grabbed the mic and said, "Let everything that hath breath," and I mean everything, praise the Lord. Sometimes tradition needs to move over for transformation. That statement hit the crowd like lightning. Some clapped, some gasped. For many SDA members, that felt like a direct challenge to their core worship beliefs. Phones started coming out. People were recording. TikTok videos of the praise break began popping up within minutes. Attendees were dancing, shouting, even falling to the ground. The tent had turned into a full-blown Pentecostal revival. And while many were lifted in praise, others saw it as disrespectful. A youth pastor later said in a podcast, "There was no warning. It felt like an ambush, not an altar call." Behind the scenes, things were unraveling. Organizers scrambled to keep the schedule on track, but Ricky's set ran long. It caused delays in the next programs, and backstage, tensions grew thicker. After Ricky's powerful set came to an end, the air inside the worship tent still felt heavy with emotion and mixed reactions. Some people were wiping away tears, hands still raised, overwhelmed by what they had just witnessed. Others were visibly disturbed, whispering among themselves, clutching their programs like something sacred had been violated. But if anyone thought the storm had passed, they were wrong, because this is where it gets even more intense. Clark Sheard had not even stepped onto the stage yet, and when she did, everything the organizers feared came true. She walked out confidently, dressed in a deep navy suit and her signature heels, commanding the stage with her presence alone. The crowd responded immediately. Applause thundered across the tent. Some stood up before she even sang a note. The organ began, and without hesitation, Karen launched into Balm in Gilead, one of her most powerful and emotional songs. Her voice filled the tent like a wave. People wept, hands stretched toward the ceiling. But here's the shocking part. According to the official schedule, Karen was only supposed to sing that one song and then say a brief closing prayer. That was it. That's what everyone expected. But she didn't stop. As the music faded and the crowd began to sit down, Karen lifted her mic again and said, "I feel a shift in here. Somebody needs deliverance, not a program." The tent exploded. People jumped to their feet. A woman in the third row began shouting. A man near the exit fell to his knees in tears. Karen continued ministering, ignoring the run of show entirely. This wasn't a performance anymore. It was turning into an altar call right in the middle of a deeply structured SDA event, and not everyone was ready. Behind the curtain, chaos was breaking loose. Multiple event coordinators were seen panicking. One senior elder reportedly whispered to an assistant, "She's off the schedule. She needs to stop." But Karen was just getting started. She rolled into her second song. Jesus is a love song, pouring her soul into every word, with backing vocals joining in, key changes that shook the room, and ad-libs that had people breaking into full worship. And this is where the craziest part happened. As she finished the second verse, Karen paused, took a deep breath, and shared something no one saw coming. Fighting back tears, she told the audience, "I wasn't supposed to say this, but I almost canceled my appearance. There were calls, there was pressure, but the Holy Spirit told me somebody here needs a breakthrough tonight, and I wasn't going to let tradition stop a testimony." That moment hit everyone differently. For those caught in the Spirit, it was confirmation that God was present. For others, especially SDA elders, it was a breaking point. According to a source close to the event, one Adventist conference rep tried to cut her time short, even demanding she be removed from the stage. Quiet arguments broke out near the sound booth, phone calls were made, and whispers began about completely removing the music segment from next year's camp meeting altogether. After Karen left the stage, her team could be seen gathering their things quickly. Sources said she left the venue feeling both deeply fulfilled and painfully misunderstood. Backstage, an SDA coordinator reportedly got into a heated exchange with another guest artist, shouting, "This isn't a concert, this is sacred space. That wasn't a move of God, that was chaos." But Karen's camp didn't back down. A source said she would do it all over again if God told her to. And whether people agreed or not, her words and performance had already gone viral. Within hours, clips of her testimony and vocals flooded TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. One video of her final note on Balm in Gilead hit 1.2 million views in less than 3 days. And now, the real battle had just begun. Not on stage, but in boardrooms, inboxes, and across social media platforms. People weren't just reacting to a performance anymore. They were choosing sides in a war between tradition and transformation. In the hours following Karen's emotional performance, the fallout spread like wildfire. What happened under that massive white tent wasn't just echoing through the pews, it was now buzzing in emails, phone calls, private church chats, and across social media. Leaders were panicking, elders were offended, and younger attendees, many were on fire. This wasn't just a moment anymore. It had turned into a full-blown movement. But here's where it gets even more layered. Just 2 days after the event, a quiet post appeared on a regional SDA conference website. It read, "While we appreciate all guests who joined us in worship, We acknowledge that portions of the recent music segment did not align with the doctrinal tone expected of our sacred gatherings. But here is the shocking part. That statement disappeared within 12 hours. Deleted, erased, gone. But not before people took screenshots and shared them everywhere. To many gospel fans, it felt like a slap in the face. They invited Ricky and Karen, then got mad when the Spirit showed up, one viral YouTuber said. His reaction video crossed 300,000 views overnight. Comment sections blew up. Some people defended the artist fiercely, saying that God had clearly moved in the tent. Others argued that the church must protect its spiritual order, no matter how popular the performer is. The divide was growing fast. But what makes this story different? It wasn't just about opinions anymore. Behind the scenes, real consequences were happening. A well-followed Adventist Facebook group shared a post from someone claiming to be an insider. According to them, Ricky and Karen had been unofficially blacklisted from future SDA events. And next year, there will be no gospel guests. Period, they wrote. Don't expect to see their names connected to anything SDA ever again. And while neither Ricky nor Karen responded publicly, both stayed silent on their social media pages. Not a single post, not even a like or a share. That silence spoke louder than words. Then came another twist, one that no one saw coming. A popular gospel blog reported that Karen had recently declined an invitation to headline an upcoming SDA Women's Conference without giving any reason. Around the same time, Ricky was reportedly removed from the guest list of a Christian university's worship summit. Suddenly, it wasn't just about SDA circles. The ripple effects of this camp meeting moment were now reaching across denominational lines. And destiny took another unexpected turn when a blog post surfaced online, written by someone who claimed to be an SDA pastor. The post, published anonymously, said, "Maybe the issue wasn't the music. Maybe it was the fact that the Spirit disrupted our control. And now we're calling it chaos instead of conviction." That one quote got shared thousands of times. Many people said it perfectly captured what they had felt but didn't know how to say. For the first time, a quiet conversation began to surface, not just about worship style, but about fear. The fear of letting go, the fear of change, the fear of losing control in the presence of something unexplainable. But the question still remained, was this truly a move of God, or had the camp meeting simply spiraled into emotional disorder? Some attendees called it a turning point. Others called it the worst spiritual breach in SDA history. And while both sides argued their case, one thing was absolutely clear. The church would never be the same after this. As the days passed, the dust from the camp meeting didn't settle. It thickened. Behind closed doors, SDA leadership held emergency debriefs. According to a confirmed source, the worship committee was formally reprimanded. A full breakdown report was ordered minute by minute, detailing how things spiraled, who made the final call to let Ricky and Karen perform, and how protocol had failed so publicly. One regional director reportedly didn't hold back. He called the entire episode a spiritual breach and suggested a strict new policy. No more non-Adventist guest artists ever. What started as a bold attempt to bridge the gap had now turned into a crisis that made the church question its very identity. But outside those boardrooms, the people were still talking. Social media kept buzzing, live streams were analyzed, comments poured in, hashtags began to rise in niche circles. #Let the Spirit move, #SDA worship reform, and #church without chains. Young Adventists, many of whom had never felt so spiritually alive at a camp meeting, began to speak up. They said what they experienced wasn't chaos. It was breakthrough. It was freedom. They weren't trying to erase tradition. They just wanted worship that felt real, honest, and free from fear. But elders and conservative members pushed back just as hard. To them, it felt like the beginning of the end. A drift from sacred values into gospel celebrity culture. And this is where the tension hit its deepest point between order and openness, head knowledge and heart encounter. So, what makes this story different? It wasn't just about loud music or long praise breaks or an altar call that wasn't planned. It revealed something deeper, a church at war with itself, not in hatred, but in confusion. One side holding on to tradition like an anchor, the other reaching for expression like a lifeline. And in the middle of it all stood Ricky Dillard and Clark Sheard, two artists who didn't ask for a fight but became the center of one. They didn't just sing, they shook something. They exposed a split that had been quietly building for years. The question now is, where do we go from here? Can a church so deeply rooted in structure still leave room for the Spirit to move unpredictably? Can gospel fire and Adventist doctrine find harmony on the same stage? Or are they too different to ever exist side by side? The aftermath has already begun changing things. Some SDA conferences have started planning open panels and youth town halls. Others have doubled down on tradition, refusing to entertain any idea of change. And while no official word has come from Ricky or Karen, one thing is for sure, their silence speaks volumes. The videos from that night continue to rack up millions of views. People still debate in the comments. Some call it revival, others call it rebellion. But no one can deny something happened in that tent that day. Something raw, something real, and something the church won't be able to ignore. So now it's up to you, the viewers, the believers, the worshipers, the seekers. What do you want the future of gospel worship to look like? Should we protect the past at all costs, even if it means losing the next generation? Or should we open the door, even if it means things get a little uncomfortable? Was this just a one-time controversy or the beginning of a much-needed change? One thing is certain. After this camp meeting, the conversation has started, and it cannot be silenced. And whether you find God in stillness or in shouting, in hymns or in harmonies, one truth remains. The Spirit is still speaking. The only question is, are we really ready to listen?